Formula 1 over the summer break have been releasing the teammate head-to-head stats at the midway point of the season, and for rookie Logan Sargeant up against Alex Albon at Williams, it's a tough read after his first 12 races in F1. Logan has only finished ahead of Alex once in Jeddah, and that was because Alex had to retire on lap 29 with brake issues. Alex also has outqualified Logan in every single qualifying session this season, and when it comes to the all-important points scored, Alex has scored all of Williams' 11 points, which is currently the only reason why they sit as high as 7th in the championship. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's been a baptism of fire for Logan Sargeant, because I don't think he's been a total disaster with nothing to show for so far. But heading into the last 10 races, he has got to start showing more progress than he has so far. And the bottom line is that he has got to start scoring points if he wants to stay at the team for 2024. The start of the season was definitely tricky for Logan because not only was the Williams comfortably the worst car on the grid, but the fast and tight street tracks that we had early on like Jeddah, Baku and Miami didn't do anything to help a driver that was already low on confidence in a slow car and didn't have experience. There was also the occasional rookie error with crashes in Baku, Australia, Jeddah, but that's to be expected, and as of recent, despite having a late spin during the Hungarian Grand Prix, I think he's done a good job to learn and cut out those needless mistakes. The problem for Logan Sargeant, regardless of how well or not you think he's been driving, is how he looks up against the two drivers that he's constantly being compared to, and that's number 1 his teammate Alex Albon, and number 2 the other rookie on the grid in Oscar Piastri. In terms of Oscar Piastri, Logan Sargeant is just nowhere near his level. I think it's fair to say that Piastri as a rookie has an even harder teammate in Lando Norris, but yet despite that, he still managed to outqualify and finish ahead of him a few times, and even though it wasn't a Grand Prix, he has already finished on the podium during the sprint in Spa. Even outside of just the stats, the way Oscar has hit the ground running at McLaren has been remarkable. He's justified the team's decision to break him out of Alpine in the first place, and unlike Sargeant, he's undoubtedly secured his spot at the team for years to come. Up against Albon, the comparison also doesn't look great. Apart from the stats that I talked about earlier, it's the average qualifying gap which I think has been the most worrying. Across the first 12 races, Albon has been on average over half a second quicker than Sargeant. If you look at the way Alex has been able to score points in 2023, apart from Bahrain, it's been all about qualifying well and getting into Q3 and then holding on to strong points-paying positions through good strategy, good defensive driving, and also using the Williams' strength of being a very fast car in a straight line, which has slightly negated the DRS from the cars behind. In the midfield, different cars have different strengths and weaknesses, and have different circumstances under which they can score points, and that is where the driver really comes into its own if they're able to extract the right performance in the right circumstance and on the right track. That is how Alex achieved his big points finishes in Canada and Silverstone, and that is why the worryingly big qualifying deficit to Alex has been the single biggest issue for Logan. He's only been into Q2 twice this season, his highest grid position has been 14th, and on average, he has been the worst qualifier this season, even ranked lower than Nick de Vries. The good news for Logan is that the car has improved since the start of the season, and that has coincided with a slight improvement from Logan as well. The Williams this season since Canada has been a decent enough midfield car. In the hands of Albon, he has single-handedly hauled Williams up to 7th in the Constructors, ahead of Haas, Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tauri. Alpine ahead of them I think will be too tough to catch, especially with only one driver scoring points, but if Williams can hold on to that 7th place in the Constructors, I think that would be a fantastic season for them. The problem is, now that the car has improved, it's gonna bring more pressure and more expectation onto Logan to at least get on the board and score some points. Let's be clear, he is not in a 2019 Williams or 2021 Haas situation where the car is genuinely a backmarker that has no hope of scoring points outside of a crazy wet race. He has got a decent car underneath him, and over the coming races on tracks that should suit the Williams more, like Monza for example, he's got to show that he can turn his improvements into production by stringing together a weekend with a good qualifying and then also a quality drive on the Sunday. I think what's been really interesting, however, especially with the whole Nick de Vries situation, is how differently Williams have handled their driver struggling compared to AlphaTauri. I was lucky enough to be at the Austrian Grand Prix this year, and on the Friday, when James Vowles was on the stage in the fan zone, you could definitely tell that he was really trying to talk up Logan Sargeant and talk up the potential that he has. It gives me the sense that right from the very top, the team is actively trying to put as little pressure as possible on Logan. The fact that Sargeant is also a Williams young driver who came through their academy, I think is also huge. It gives the team even more incentive to give Logan as much time as possible before they really start considering his future. Over the summer break, I have been invited on a few podcasts, and the question of Logan's future always seems to come up, with multiple people asking me, do I think that he's going to be replaced in 2024? Now, to be honest, my answer has always been that there's not really a point in thinking about that yet. There's no doubt that he's going to be at the team until the end of the season, and so I think any talk about potential replacements should only really be entertained at the end of the year, if not even after Abu Dhabi, when the team can properly assess his full rookie season. Even when you look at the alternatives, the likes of Mick Schumacher or Frederik Vesti, they're not going anywhere other than Williams anyway, and so the team is in a fortunate position that they can just wait as long as they want. I also think that despite the appointment of James Vowles from Mercedes, I think Williams for quite a few years now have tried to go further and further away from the perception that there's some kind of Mercedes B team. Their choice in 2021 to take Albon, who was backed by Red Bull, over de Vries, who was backed by Mercedes, was the first real sign of that. And I don't think that these days that they're as open to just taking any Mercedes-linked driver like Schumacher or Vesti just to maintain that relationship. Something else that I think is really in Logan's favour is that there isn't really that many standout drivers in the running. Mick Schumacher is experienced, but he's definitely still a risk. As far as Vesti, well, if your rookie driver is not having a great season, then what's the point of replacing him with another? Obviously, if a Russell, Leclerc or Piastri level talent was on the table, then you'd absolutely go for them, but Vesti just isn't that caliber of driver. You might as well as give Sargeant that second season to develop even more, instead of start all over again with another driver from another team's junior program. Or when you're evaluating rookies, and especially rookies which haven't quite yet delivered, it's all about the question of potential. It's about the level of performance that you think that they can be capable of if you gave them another year to develop, versus the level that you think another driver who perhaps is more of a certainty, if not still a risk, can give you in the same time. Formula 1 is all about performing under pressure, or whether people like it or not, whether people think it's fair or not, every single driver has to perform even if they are a rookie. Logan has been unlucky in the sense that his two benchmark drivers have both been drivers who have had incredible seasons thus far, but that's Formula 1. I do think Logan will keep improving in the second half of the season, and I'm sure he's going to score at least 1 point eventually, because he definitely has the speed, but it's just about stringing together that perfect weekend from qualifying to the checkered flag and proving that you've got that kind of performance in you under the pressure. If I were to bet now, I would be surprised if Logan Sargeant was replaced for 2024 because, as I said, Williams are massively invested and want to see him succeed more than anyone else. Having an American driver for an American-owned team, especially during this F1 American boom as well, also means he's a massive commercial asset, which is another incentive for him to stay. But performance is the bottom line in Formula 1. Even rookies, especially ones that have point-scoring cars at their disposal, have to start turning potential into results. I think like most rookies, it just takes 1 point. It just takes one result to really take that pressure off your shoulders. But until then, questions are going to continue to be asked. If he scores points, or even on the odd occasion starts beating Alex, then a second-year contract is almost guaranteed. But how long is too long? If by Abu Dhabi he is still underperforming and is still being dominated by Alex, do Williams need to seriously start looking for an alternative? I'll leave that one to you in the comments. Well, there you have it. If you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That would be massively appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.